Fluency Kids, we are driven by a passion to help kids become bilingual. All kids. Sometimes, though, we hear from parents who worry that learning a new language could actually harm their children. Some of these parents fear that being exposed to two languages when they're very young will cause their kids to have speech delays. Other parents have kids who have already been diagnosed with a delay or disability, and they wonder if their children can learn two languages or if it will cause additional delays for them. I'm a mom myself, and I totally get where these parents are coming from. We make all of our decisions based on what's best for our kids, right? And the bottom line is that different things work for different families. Whatever decision you make for your family, just make sure that it's based on current, credible research. I've met parents who have gotten inaccurate guidance on bilingualism. They might have heard outdated, conventional wisdom from family members, the internet, or even their pediatricians. So today, I want to talk about what experts have actually discovered about bilingualism and speech and development delays. Now, this is a big, complex topic, so you'll definitely want to do additional research about your family's specific situation. The sources I used to put together this video can be a great starting point. You can find links to those sources below. So one of the biggest takeaways I want you to get from this video is that exposure to another language does not cause speech delays. The roots of this misconception make me sad. Writing for KQED, journalist Izzy Bloom says, before the 1960s, psychologists viewed bilingualism as a disability in any child's development. The so-called language handicap theory, as it was known, can be traced back to anti-immigrant sentiment in the early 1900s. But over the years, research has revealed a far different reality. Learning two or more languages starting at birth will not delay your child's speech. They have the same language trajectory as a monolanguage learner. That's from speech language pathologist Micah of Say and Play Speech. She also explains that some parents may assume that their toddler has speech delays due to bilingualism because they don't know as many words in their dominant language as their peers do. At 18 months, toddlers should have around 10 to 20 words in their speaking vocabulary. Now, if your child is exposed only to English, all of those 10 to 20 words will obviously be English ones. But if they are spoken to in both Spanish and English, 10 of their 20 words might be English and 10 in Spanish. That's actually not a sign of speech delays. Neither is switching between languages in the same sentence. But what about kids who have already been diagnosed with developmental issues? Again, let's hear what speech language pathologists have to say. Don't let anybody tell you to pick just one language, even if your child is speech delayed or has a speech disorder. That is not at all backed by research. That's another great quote from Michael Tatro. Now, Christina Doyle, who works with a nonprofit serving families with special needs, agrees. She says that even if your child has speech delays, you can still enroll them in dual language immersion school. In fact, being exposed to two languages can even help kids with delays express themselves and improve their overall language outcomes. Now, Lauren Lowry, who works with a nonprofit that helps children with communication delays, shares research about some specific conditions and how they affect language learning. First, there's specific language impairment, or SLI. This disorder affects up to 10% of children in kindergarten, according to the National Institute on Deafness and Other Communication Disorders. You may also hear SLI referred to as developmental language disorder, language delay, or developmental dysphasia. Quote, young children with SLI learning two languages at the same time do not demonstrate any greater difficulties in their two languages as compared to monolingual children with SLI, Lowry writes. Quote again, simultaneous bilingual children with SLI demonstrate the same challenges as monolingual children with SLI, but not any extra burden or difficulties, end quote. There's also good news for families of children with Down syndrome. Lauer cites a study comparing kids with Down syndrome being raised in monolingual homes to those being raised in bilingual homes. Again, no negative effects of bilingualism were found. A study of children with autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, had similar results. Bilingual kids with ASD had similar vocabulary scores to monolingual kids with ASD. I want to wrap up with a finding that I found especially interesting. So we've already established that being in a bilingual home or language immersion classes does not cause or worsen speech delays. But do you know what can? Here's a quote from speech pathologist Megan Horn. Parents who try not to use their native language may make it harder for a child to learn any language well, since it may limit the quality and quantity of language exposure that the child is receiving at home. In other words, use the language you are most comfortable with when you speak to your child, even if it's not the dominant language in your culture or even your household. The important thing is just that you're talking to your child a lot. Now, if you've been following me, you know that I've only been speaking to my child in my third language, French, since she turned 1. My daughter is now 2.5 and probably about 90% as fluent in French as she is in English and Spanish. Our situation is Spanish all day, 9 to 5, Monday to Thursday, lots of English with friends and family on the weekends and evenings, but I only speak to her and address her in French. I've decided I've hit my limit actually a little bit with my French level, so I've hired someone to come to our home for about 8 hours a week to live life with us, talk with us, play with us, correct my French if they hear something wrong, instantly give us vocabulary words and phrases we can't find, and allow her to hear a native speaker. So, not everyone will speak to their child in their most confident language or best language. My French is only at an advanced B1, low B2 level. So, I hope this video has eased any concerns you may have about raising bilingual kids. If your child is not experiencing speech or other delays, there's absolutely no reason to believe that exposure to a second language will cause any problems. If your child has a diagnosis that affects their speech, I think you have plenty of reasons for optimism that they can still become bilingual and maybe even benefit from hearing 2 languages. Like I said before, just do your research and seek out expert opinions on your child's specific situation. And if you want your child to learn Spanish, please know that all kinds of kids feel right at home in our True Fluency Kids online classes. Here's to fluency!